configuring push publishing. So push publishing it's based on the idea of multiple consistent regions of content. So if we go back to this diagram here. So this production would be considered a region of content. This disaster recovery would be a region of content. Your production environment could be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 or however many dotCMS nodes. You could also have multiple production environments. You could have a geo-balanced production environment in the US and a second one in Europe, and a third one in Southeast Asia. So you can have your authoring server, which may be located here in the US, it may be located in Hong Kong, it may be located in the Mediterranean. It doesn't really matter. When you push, you can push to your production environment, and it can go to production A and production B and production C, and a copy going to the disaster recovery all at the same time. So we're ensuring that all of those environments have consistent content across all of them. And that's how you do geo-balancing with push publishing rather than with some sort of clustering. What this does is it allows rapid response between client and server because it's geographically closer to them. And you can have both a production A, production B, production C, which can function as failovers for one another. You can have a hot disaster recovery in another region that's available in case your production environment goes down. You can have a checker on that will flip the DNS switch to point to your DR automatically. And because you've been push publishing to production and DR at the same time, you know they're identical. You know there's no concerns about your disaster recovery having outdated data. So setting up push publishing is pretty straightforward. Let's bring up the correct tool here. We're about 38, and this is 38. All right, so let's go to training. So first I'm going to look actually on my receiving side. I'm going to go to my configuration, look at my publishing environments, and I have set up, I've added a server. I'm going to accept connections from .38. You set an authorization token or a file path. It could be, opt shared text.txt. It can be a file that you know exists on both sides of the transaction. It can be a string of any sort. My preferred approach is to grab something like that, drop it in here. That's my authorization token. It's pretty unlikely that someone is going to be able to figure out that authorization token and spoof that IP address to be able to interfere with the push publishing. But for the purposes of testing, I'm just going to use one because then I don't have to worry about copy-paste errors or anything. On the authoring side, there's a little bit more involved in setting it up. I've got one set up, but I'll set up another one. So first you set up an environment. You define who can send. Admin user can always push, can always send, but you can select other specific users who are allowed to. So you have this new environment. Target is our first region publishing environment. Test2 is our second one, or our DR environment maybe. Say, okay, now I'm going to add endpoints in there. In this case, it's going to be .39. I'm running over HTTP. I don't have SSL going right now. Oops, I missed a period in that name, but that's just the name, so it doesn't actually matter. I'm running this on port 8080. My authorization token is 1. So that's the configuration. It's really straightforward. The trick being, again, making sure that you have the ports open and accepting. So because these are going to be in different subnets, they're going to be in different data centers likely. It's not unusual for there to be some trickiness in setting this up. For example, if you're in some kind of cloud-hosted environment, making sure that the security groups in the cloud hosting allow that transaction through, or whatever firewall you have will allow this IP address to connect on this port to this target. Once you've got it set up, the first thing you want to do is check your integrity. What this is doing a quick high-level check of the database on both sides and say, is there anything out of sync between these two? In this case, you saw the message saying no conflicts found. If there is a problem, you'll get a little pop-up box there saying, hey, this HTML page on your authoring server is older than the one on your target server because someone logged into the target server and made changes when they shouldn't have. Which one do you want to make the correct one? And so that's a simple example. There's a lot of other conditions which could happen that would cause an integrity check to fail, but it'll pop up useful information that says, hey, this is why it's not going to work. And the first thing I would do when you're doing push publishing here, you come in your publishing queue, you see a failed bundle. The first thing you should do at that point is come in here and run your integrity checker, because that will probably tell you exactly why that bundle failed and exactly what needs to be fixed. And it actually will include a button that says, fix this here on the target, or fix this here on the authoring server, or fix it on the target, or it'll give you the option to fix it manually also, and then go in and make whatever changes are needed for it to actually work. So that's really all that's involved in setting up push publishing. It's pretty straightforward.